Bailey Midkiff, WIC.
WIC, what's that stand for? Just out of curiosity.
William Insulation Company.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. Hey, let's just start off by go ahead and give yourself a little bit of a plug, a little 30-second minute commercial, if you will. Appreciate you coming on to talk some energy issues today. And so go ahead and let people know how you guys are assisting the energy companies.
So really the moral of the story is we've been around for 41 plus years, and anything from locations to refineries, anything in between, power plants, really spread out from the basic start of obviously insulation is how the company kind of took off. And then they've added a lot of service lines through the years, and through the partnerships figured out what people may need or what their desires are, along with continually adding ones that may, adapt and change with, the new technology advancements, such as like drones. We partnered with a few companies. I know Kevin Short's been some guy you guys have talked to in the past, and we deal with them quite a bit.
Sure, over SPS Short.
Yep.
Wyoming, that's right. That's
right.
They've got a long name and then an acronym name, and so I almost got them mixed up there for a second. But do you guys get much confusion? Come out and insulate my house.
We do. So I have a lot of
Oh, yeah, we do.
Like,
okay.
You do that. They're like, oh, well, I've got a shed in the backyard. We're good buddies. You should come insulate it. I mean, not to say we can't do that, but yeah, we definitely we see a lot of that gap not being filled, right?
Sure, exactly. That's well, and that's just part of the. To me, this is another one of those interesting parts of the oil and gas industry. Nobody really ever talks about. Nobody really probably even thinks of, and that's the part that blew me away about. I got into this industry. What was it, 2011, pretty much. And actually, I don't know if you know this. I got into this industry to investigate against the industry. I had a narrative in my mind that this was going to be like shooting fish in a barrel, and I was going to do, my media company, and I was going to sell, to the big papers and all this stuff. And I'm an entrepreneur and an explorer and a humanitarian, and so it didn't even take me 2 days to see that, oh no, the oil and gas industry is creating opportunity. And I mean, it was like a complete 180 reversal within 2 days of me embedding myself in the energy industry. Very long question here. Your business is one of those slices that, that really shows how diverse the energy industry really is, and how big the economic cycle is. Do you guys ever talk about that? Just how vast this industry really is?
Yeah, we do. And I mean, there's a lot of pieces to the pie, right? And I mean, people don't really think about past, even if they work in the oil and gas industry, let's say, from lack of better terms, a roughneck, they may think, okay, we drill a hole, so be it. But there's so much that goes with it, and there's so much that comes out of it. And there's so many people involved in so many different areas, right?
So let me just ask you, what is it that you do? Somebody gives you a call and they say, hey, you know what? We want some insulation here for our project or our job out on, in the middle of, I don't know, the Powder River Basin. What do you guys do next?
We really try to get all the in-depth details. What are you looking for? What is it actually doing? What is it that you are insulating? Does it meet your needs? Is it a prime example? Like you said, okay, well, I need insulation. Well, I mean, there's a lot that goes with that. Figuring out what kind of insulation they need, what kind of weather they see, all the variables that might not be thought of. Making sure that you give the customer what is actually needed to best perform what they're looking for. If it is to make something not freeze, or to keep it warm, or all the things that insulation would help with.
I just think that's absolutely incredible. That it's just that finite now of an industry that you can have. I mean, to me, this seems like a niche. I mean, like I said, when I think of insulation, I think of houses.
Exactly.
It's amazing that the energy industry can have that much business that you guys can operate for 41 years. You said?
Yep.
Huh, jeez. How long have you been doing this?
A couple years. I've been kind of helping these guys through the years, and then finally I made the full commitment. I've done various things from I started out in the drilling services side, and then, like you talked about, I figured out there was such a big world out there, different things, and I really wanted to get more knowledgeable, and be more involved, not just stay in one portion of the puzzle, like really start putting all the pieces together to make a full picture. So expanded quite a lot.
Yeah. Talk to me about the expansion of your energy, enthusiasm, if you will.
When you first think, so I grew up in a family. My dad was a driller. His dad was a driller. So, obviously right out the gate, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go be a driller. Well, then when you spend your life in school and start, realizing there's more things out there, you realize that, you can do other things that helps this industry. Even one thing we're getting really involved with is Energy Strong, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of that. People think, okay, so we're just oil and gas guys. We go out there and we get oil or we get gas, and that's the end of it. But there's a lot of things from politics and stuff like that. And the more and more, just like you in the talk show, finding out all the things that are out there and, the issues that may arise. And it's exciting to expand your career and see, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was an issue. I didn't know this was an issue. And how can I help? It kind of affects everybody.
Are you starting to get a little more involved on the political side and the advocacy side?
I really am. You don't, it's not something you really think about. Even if a person were to get a job, or in a better choice of words, a career, you don't really think of that side of it until you start getting more knowledge and realize that, our voice matters. And this is all stuff that affects us day to day, and we need to take it pretty seriously.
No, this is some serious business going on. This really is. And it's different because it's really too bad it's become political. This is to me the very idea that you're making it political, which I do think the energy industries and the renewables and the fossil fuels, they've almost carved them out in a political way, and then they turn around and say they don't, but they have. To me, it's discriminatory. It becomes very discriminatory towards people who probably don't have a lot of economic opportunity, or people who are in very economic suppressed areas, because heat and shelter and food. Those are the three things we all need. And so when you start messing with people's heat and shelter and food, that does become discriminatory against people with lesser means and lesser incomes and everything. That was my little soapbox. What'd you think of that one there? Boy, I should get back into politics. I used to do that stuff for about 15 years. So I hit political purgatory about 10 years ago, so I got out of it. And it's kind of interesting, some of the stuff that's going on, because really it's hard to talk about this industry without somebody just getting into a political discussion. Do you know what I mean by that?
I really do, and you nailed it. It's amazing. And like I said, it really wasn't a conversation before. Back in the day, it was really just, okay, we got a new president. Either, the classic joke was, is it going to sink us or is it going to expand us? And now that's changed to people actually getting knowledgeable and wanting to look at it more and have an understanding. I don't think us as an industry in the past really put much thought to that until, they started making major actions and major pushes to, like you said, be discriminatory or make changes, that we really start realizing, wow, we need to have a better understanding. It's not even that we didn't have a voice, it's that we really didn't try to have a voice for a long time.
Are you going on record or having an opinion or speaking on the rise of environmentalism? You're in Wyoming. Colorado's had some major conflict in terms of environmental and fossil fuels bled into Wyoming's BLM land. In fact, I just talked to Kathleen Segma with the Western States Energy Alliance, and she's in Washington, D.C. right now testifying on trying to get these BLM lands loosened up a little bit because of the stringent and duplicitous, redundant red tape that's going on. Are you getting into that environmental side of things? That's the other thing about advocacy. Sometimes you just stay away from certain areas and you dive into other areas. You know what I mean?
Right.
So are you getting into that environment side of things, being so close to Colorado and following, the SB and all that other different thing?
I'm just starting to do so, yes, because I think the reality is we need to get ahead of it, and we don't want to see the same issues arise, in our neck of the woods. It's bad because we're a neighboring state, and we really support them in the sense that that's some damaging stuff they're trying to do, and I mean they're succeeding with some of it, and some of it we're able to kind of push back or help, but I think it's very critical for people even just to know, hey, this is what's happening in Colorado. We're next to them. It's not unrealistic that we'll see the same issues and see them very soon.
Yeah, and they're starting to bleed into other states too. I mean, Oregon tried a similar template. I know that Utah's had some BLM as well as New Mexico, some issues with the BLM as well. So it's the momentum has not been going oil and gas's way in terms of regulations for a while. What do you make about the public relations side of things with oil and gas? You work in the industry, but you also work, you can step away from it and be at a cocktail party because, insulation, people don't think of oil and gas right away. You work for Whiting Petroleum, well, you can't really avoid the fact that you work for an energy company. What do you make of the perception of oil and gas right now? I'll even go a step further and give you some context to where we started following the change in perception 5 years ago when we would do a lot of business in Colorado, and I noticed in the breakfast bars in the hotels in the morning, people would look over their shoulder before they said they worked in oil and gas. And then, of course, flash forward to today, and they have the issues they have there. Wyoming, on the other hand, though, I've always really gotten them as an energy state. So I don't know what the perception is like in Wyoming, but just talk to me a little bit about your views on the changes in the status of the oil and gas perception.
I think, luckily, and you nailed it, luckily for Wyoming, I think we've never really had that much of a negative, stance for anybody. I think it's really our state's, forte. Oil and gas has kind of been something we've been about for a long time. I mean, it really created the state. It's been involved. I mean, Gillette in itself is an energy capital, it used to be major, but I won't claim, that it's the largest because it's had issues, right? But I think we're really lucky and blessed because we have people on our side. Now, it's still really loose in terms of regulation, stuff like that right now, but there's only one way it can go, right? And we got to, ensure that hopefully it doesn't do that. And I mean, obviously keep everything in mind that the environmental part of it is very important. I mean, everything's important, but it's got to be realistic, and it's got to benefit us not only as a state, but as the United States and, globally in that sense.
How's your guys' business doing out there?
It's doing really good. It's growing like wildfire. I mean, you probably heard the Powder River Basin. It's it's not the whole joke of it's going to be the next North Dakota. I mean, we'll probably never see something grow and expand like that.
That was such a rare.
A lot of movement.
That was such a rare time, and the thing about North Dakota is I don't know a lot of the other laws of the land and that sort of thing, but kind of the general gist, which a lot of people didn't talk about during the $100 boom oils and that sort of thing, was in North Dakota you have to prove that there's oil there. Okay, well, we've got a rock library that pretty much has shown every core sample, I think, since 1950. So the energy companies knew the oil was there, but they still had to prove it. So what a lot of energy companies did when there was $100 oil, they just went out, punched a hole in the ground, proved it. Now they got 20 to 25 years to drill. So they went out, they proved, they showed everybody that they needed to show that there was oil there. And now, like I said, 20 to 25 years, it's all a price game now. Now it just depends on the price. And so that's what's going on in the Bakken, and that's why it's going to be a 20 to 25 year play. Everything I've read, it sounds like the Powder River is going to have a 20 to 30 year play as well.
Exactly. And I mean, the moral of the story is, Jason, it's either if they're drilling for it and producing it or not. I mean, and just like you said, honestly, they've known where every little bit of oil has been for probably well before my day and age. And there's probably still some that we haven't heard of. But,
yeah, they're always finding more, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're always like, oh, we found this big, brand new shale, let's say XYZ. Okay, that's great. Well, my dad drilled the well there in '89. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I wouldn't say it's new.
But you guys are feeling pretty good about the Powder River Basin and the growth that's happening. Are you guys experiencing growth beyond Wyoming?
Not yet. So it hasn't surpassed what we can withstand.
Okay.
Not to say that it won't, but yeah, we're not in a position yet to where we can't handle it or we can't grow with it. Not the sense of, okay, all the hotels are booked or you can't eat at a restaurant or the Walmart shelves, they can't stock them up. I mean, it's definitely not that bad.
I'll tell you what, this year, I would say some of the best growth has been no growth at all. And I seriously mean that. Sometimes some of the best growth you can have is not to get too big, because then you get big and you got to sustain. And so sometimes, you going into another year, you're not in the position to sustain, the industry's not in the position. Because at the end of the day, one of the reasons why we're talking to a lot of different companies like yourself and finding out business is doing, rig counts are down 20% nationally. And a lot of times people have to reshuffle their deck in order to figure out how to get a full house again. And a lot of the innovation and technology sectors are finding some pretty good success. A lot of people are going into the Powder River Basin or finding some new shale plays to find success. I talked to a guy in Canada. They had to leave the country.
Which is crazy to think, right?
Well, that's what I said. Exactly. He goes, oh, I don't think we have any jobs in Canada anymore. He goes, our company headquarters is here, but all of our jobs are in the United States. So, I mean, yeah, it depends on your business, Well, I mean, I can't remember his business, but I think it had to do with big generators, and if nobody's drilling in Canada, he's got to go where the drilling is. So that's kind of the way.
Exactly. You got to follow the work.
Totally. So, kind of wrapping up a little bit here. What do you want people to walk away from this interview and remembering about what you guys are doing and what you're doing and et cetera?
I think the big thing I'd like to touch on is, always remember we're a supportive industry and Wyoming's supportive of everybody else. And we just want to see every industry prosper. And hopefully, with what we're doing, just even our little piece of the puzzle to make this stuff happen is giving everybody a return. The end game is really just to, create a better future. And there's just things that have to happen as a whole and every group, for us all to work together to continually move in the right direction.